Welcome, day one, right? Always a lot of energy, always a lot of fun. You know what? We're very intentional about fall camp, about training camp, and a strong off-season showed, and a slow start, a little bit some hiccups, but after that, a lot of positive stuff, and of course a lot of stuff to correct. But again, we're very intentional about the way we run training camp, and we're very big on culture, on establishing our identity and DNA, and this time of year is dedicated to mastering schematically our offense, our defense, and special teams, and technique and fundamentals and communication and connecting our team. So this time is critical, and we take advantage of every single second, every single minute. But the goal is also, as Coach Jimmy Johnson would always tell us, the importance of being in elite shape, right? And football rewards teams that are in elite shape, right? Coach Pat Riley would always talk about the importance of being in elite shape, and certainly it needs to be hot. We need to compete. It needs to be physical, and all those things will certainly come into play. So glad you guys are here, and open to questions, please.
In terms of how first days typically go, how did you feel about the intensity levels today?
Well, the intensity, I don't think it's ever gonna dip. If anything, it always gets more and more intense. I was curious to see, where we've had some, I would say, massive changes on defense, right? Schematically, we've had some significant changes on special teams as well. And then offensively, we've evolved. We haven't been the same offensively the last 2 years, and we feel like we could take another step schematically, as well as from a production standpoint. So intensity high, you always have to, and not in a bad way. A lot of guys are trying to make plays, so they take it a bit too far. You just got to teach, man. Guys want to be intense. You don't want to break off their sword and make them too docile, right? You want to make sure they're aggressive. You want to make sure they are intense. We just got to be smart and stay up off the ground. We were on the ground a couple times, but came out injury-free, and we want to stay that way throughout camp.
Mario, you spoke about offense being not exactly the same the last 2 years, but the continuity on the offensive stack. How much does that help, especially when you're starting a new camp?
Yeah, they work well together, and I think what's understated sometimes is the value of the analysts that we have. The front, I would say the leg work and the way that they front load the week and keep us ahead on self-scout is critically important. Every play out of every formation, you'd like it to look the same when it starts, but end very differently, right? That's the marriage of the run game, play action, the quick game, the screen game, and whatnot. And we certainly want to be very difficult to defend, and to do so, you really have to be detailed as it relates to your self-scout. Well, those guys, Max Driscoll, Nate Crutchfield, Landon Hofer, man, those guys are invaluable, and they've done a really good job. And we feel that we're so rep intensive in spring football and in the summer that by the time we get to fall camp, we feel like we're installing for the fourth or fifth time. So very productive as it relates, or in that respect.
Mario, yesterday we had a chance to talk to Carson Beck. He said he was excited to kind of find out what this team is. What did you see from him on his first day?
Really productive first day. He himself will tell you maybe his first rep or two might have been off by a little bit, and then by the middle of practice, really impressive. And probably even more impressive than that is his desire to get upstairs after a shower and getting cleaned up, of course, but getting upstairs and getting on that film and getting those corrections done to advance quicker and quicker. He's played so much football, he's seen so much, and he really understands our concepts well, but he had a very productive first day, as did the rest of the quarterbacks.
Mario, you notice his leadership right away. He's constantly talking to guys, going over stuff right after it happens.
Yeah.
Is that what you expected?
He is, yes, we did, and we want the best version of that, and it's also our job to groom that. He's a big guy. His presence physically is really impressive, right? But he has a way about him where he connects with people. They see his knowledge, they see his football, they feel his football IQ, and they feel his competitiveness. He's got a very competitive nature. He's got a very strong competitive response in situations. I know you don't get to see how we practice, but we go from team to team pass to team run, play action, blitz period, and it's like, the guy really did a great job today.
As a coach, when you see a guy doing that, you're like, all right, we're going to be okay with that?
No, I think the opposite. I think you try to challenge him more. You want to see, you have such a short window, especially with a one-year transfer. And think about a year ago, right? We wanted to, I don't want to say squeeze every ounce we can. you want to push it to the max to see how good you can help a player, how much you could help him develop his game, and then even more importantly, how much can you help the team elevate, right? So, we want to. These guys allow themselves to get pushed. That's our one big agreement going into camp. We talk about agreements all the time, but the one monster agreement that we have is we have agreed to allow myself and the staff to push these guys to the very limits, to the point where when you're on the verge of a breakdown, you get a breakthrough instead, and those things are important during training camp.
Wesley was one of the first recruits that you got with, you got the job. When you have guys like Moten, Coop, McCoy, Marquise Williams that were here year one, how have those guys shaped the culture here in your work?
Well, I remember having a press conference here and then, saying goodbye to the family, putting them on a plane and getting in a car, undoing the tie and headed over to practice at Miami Central with about, I think, 8-9 days left before signing day. So you refer to it as a salvage class. You have 9 days. If you can find yourself a handful of players that are going to be big-time contributors, it's a win. Knowing that you have a full cycle to get the next year's class, CC and Bain and all those guys. So Wes has been has had an unbelievable offseason. I think his leadership has shown in the weight room in just the way he's been so proactive about his body. He's 230 pounds now. He was 178, 182 when I saw him in practice 3.5 years ago. So tremendous changes for him. And I look at Inez Cooper, who we were kidding around it today. I sat in his house. He didn't say a word for an hour and a half. I'm like, what are we doing here? And he was supposed to be a defensive tackle. And we're like, all right, I don't know if we're getting this guy. And we're like, so Inez, because we called him Inez, or Vel, Big Vel was his nickname, was like, anything else you want to share? And he just sat his hair down and he's like, I want to play right guard. We said, no complaints here. Let's go. So it's awesome to watch them go through the development process they have. You've seen Coop's transformation. That's incredible. That guy was 400 plus pounds. Okay, when I say 400, that's like in moon pounds. That guy was 420, 430. And he's 345 pounds right now, and he could run like a defensive lineman. He's incredibly smart. He's on the Outland watch list. I'm glad to see him get that recognition. And I think he's just scratching the surface.
A couple more questions. Starting, establish the culture, which has always been important to you. How do you balance with your players that in 30 days you play Notre Dame and temper their excitement, still working on things that you want right now?
Well, there's always going to be excitement as it relates to that. And, the whole world knows when we're playing and who we're playing game one. And that really can't have any bearing on how we approach a certain part of our process as well. Like, we got to get really good at what we do first. Understand that goal and all the other games that go with it, right? They're all tied into what we do right now. And I don't think that's hard. I think this is a very process-oriented team. One thing that was commented yesterday on was this is the most we've seen players take it upon themselves to do extra work before, after, both in the offseason, in the workday. It's a very competitive, hard-working group. So I think they understand. We pound it, to ad nauseum about how important it is to just be where our feet are right now. And when that time comes, 10, 11, 12 days out, we'll be all over that. But to get there, and for those 12 days to be really, really effective, we have to get really good at what we do first.
Mario, there were
Last question from
like 9-10 guys who weren't here in the spring who are on the roster now. Just how did they handle, their first day of practice, at UM?
They did well. Again, our summers are really rep intensive, and our player-led practice routine, those guys, they take so much pride in it. They're very organized and detailed, and they push themselves. So getting to practice, it's never quite the same when you do it on your own as a player, but there's a lot of carryover. And the way that they've installed, the way that they've studied and spent time together, they didn't look out of place. In fact, they looked pretty darn good, so we expect them to all play a factor in this upcoming season.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.